a photographer who says, I'm only going to take the most magnificent picture. And then when that picture comes, because you haven't been practicing, you're not ready. You don't know how to use the camera. It's just become a heavy, unyielding machine instead of realizing, practicing all the time to take snippets of our life and realizing there's magnificence in everything. Are you willing to see that? Yes, we're willing to be able to see magnificence in the ordinary. So I'm going to share this poem with you this morning. But I'm going to ask you not to just hear it. I want you to feel it. I want you to put yourself into it. That's my invitation to you. I want you to step into it and choose to be molded by it. And knowing me, I might make a few comments in the middle of it. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. If you dare to meet your heart's longing. You know, it's said that the longest journey in the world is from the head to the heart, because we meet all sorts of stuff along the way. Are you willing to say yes to that heart's longing? It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. Are you willing to look like a fool, to show up fully? Are you willing to do that? Because in order for us to live big and be open, it means we have to be willing to be on shaky ground, to fall off the ski slope and have everything we know fall down before us, so we're left vulnerable, exposed. And you know what happens then? It's then we can ask for help. It's then we can open up to a greater community. But it's only then when we're willing to be vulnerable and exposed. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you've been touched by the center of your sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from further pain. And you know what that means. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or yours, without trying to hide it, fade it, or fix it. But you know what you need to do to grow from it. Araya, mountain dreamer, said, she knows who to trust, not by those who won't betray her, but those who won't betray themselves. Sometimes, when things no longer fit and we're true to ourselves, we have to let things go, and people might point their finger and say, you betrayed me. Yet what actually happened is the fit was no longer there. We may have to let go of things that no longer work to be true to our heart's longing. She goes on to say, I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or yours, and you can dance with wildness and let ecstasy fill you to the tips of your finger without listening to that voice within that says, oh, be cautious, be careful, somebody's looking, this might ruin your reputation. When you're willing to just be in the ecstasy and beauty of life completely. It doesn't interest me if the story or you are telling me is true. I want to know, now this is a tough one, especially for those of us that are people pleasers and want to be loved and liked all the time. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. Can you do that? I remember starting out in metaphysics, and I had a little saying I kept with me all the time. It was a wonderful little saying that worked for me for a while. To really experience life, you've got to show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and don't be attached to the outcome. I thought I had a really good handle on that. I'd show up for classes, I'd pay attention, I'd tell the truth, oh, I liked the class or I didn't, and not be attached to the outcome. And then one of my instructors had the audacity to say to me, well, would you even consider the idea that you might be a bit codependent? Oh, Me, a professional mother of 2, how could I be codependent on somebody else bringing me my happiness, or my happiness depending on something else? And she wasn't looking at anyone else in the class at that time. This wasn't just a blanket question. This was a question pointed right at me. And I realized that the journey was not about showing up out there. It was about showing up right here. Being vulnerable with myself, paying attention to my behavior, telling the truth about myself. I went right home and read Melody Beattie's book, Codependent No More, and I was it. Whew. I have to admit, though, I was a bit attached to the outcome, but anyway. I want to know if you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty. If you can see beauty, even when it's not pretty. I just imagined Amy looking at her new legs and her prosthetic legs. And her prosthetic legs were probably not the beautiful legs she had before. But she found beauty in them because they could serve her in connecting with her passion once again. She found beauty in something that at first didn't seem beautiful. Where do we need to look in our lives to see where something doesn't look so beautiful but contains beauty? I was privileged to give a memorial celebration of life service yesterday for one of our founding members who was only 9 months younger than I. And wow, it was an interesting journey because she'd just gotten to the top of the possibility of her career exploding, a career that had been born right here in our center. And she was right at the top. It was ready to go big. And I heard people saying, well, how sad that she had to leave right before it was right there, so big. And I said, no. How beautiful for her to take that with her. How beautiful. It's a change of perspective. And then I heard people say, oh my gosh, in the last months of her life, the 2 months, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer that had metastasized in February and passed away in June. In those 4 months, she said she felt love like she had never felt before. And she was happier than she'd ever been. And I heard someone say, well, how sad people can't show love at other times. And to me, it's about how open are we to receiving love. The love is always there. It's always there. How open are we to receive it? But the beautiful part is, she told her family, I know I get to take the love with me. What a gift to them. How beautiful that is. Then we go on here. It doesn't matter or interest me to know where you live or how much money you make. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, to do what needs to be done to feed the children. This doesn't mean to me the children necessarily in our own household. Yes, part of that on the surface. This means to me, when I say be the invitation, that who we are is an example for the world. Children are watching. If you don't have children of your own or they're grown, it doesn't matter. Children are watching. Who we are is affecting what happens to this world. Are you willing, after a night of torment, self-guilt, whatever it is, just ripping yourself apart, tearing yourself apart, blaming the world, can you get up and fill yourself with the magnificence of who you are and go out and be the invitation? Because the other thing that Amy Purdy said is she knew the more she healed herself, she could heal others. The more you and I heal ourselves from false thoughts of anything that limits us, the bigger, better, more energizing, loving, magnificent presence we are in this world right now. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Good. You can think about it. It's okay. And the last two little